What's up, everybody? It's your boy Showtimedr. So, getting back in the swing of things. I got Jugler recently. Actually, I just got him yesterday, so I'm just starting to build him up. But I've taken a look at his tree. I already got my plan for him. So I'm going to go into it. And then also, for these videos, when I used to make them, most of the time, I get a lot of people complaining they take too long. So I'm going to try a new format this time. If people hate this format too, well, then I guess I'll just have to make the decision between which format I'm going to do. But so here's your format. So I'm going to tell you, I'll go over faction, what stats are important, which skills are important, assuming you unlock all the skills, and then just some general use stuff. So right now, unfortunately, he's only Origin of Light. I've heard a rumor that eventually they add him to the Meteor faction, which would be pretty good because the Meteor faction actually needs a tank. At least where we are at the game right now as I record this. But for now, he's Origins of Light, so if you're not running Origins of Light, he's going to be situational for you just because there's already, you know, tanks and stuff out there. But this character is actually pretty crazy in the amount of stuff he can do. You can make him really good physical tank, a really good magical tank. I think better magical than physical. And you can actually get his damage up pretty good, too, with all of his trees, so we'll be going over that. Now, his passive. All accessible landforms regarded as plains, always a good thing. So you can just go right over, like, mountains and stuff like that. Damage taken by the hero is reduced by 1%, depending on the soldier's missing HP. This is when you get him. Heals other friendly damage after taking damage. Recovered HP is equal to 10% of Jugler's HP. Quick explanation. So this gets to 3% when you max it to 6 stars. So basically reduces damage taken, depending on the soldier's missing HP. Heals other friendly units after taking damage, it gets to 30%. So you can actually turn this guy into kind of a passive healer too, but in general you're not going to want to do that in most cases, clearly, because you want him to stay up as much as possible, since he's probably going to be a tank for you, especially early game. So we'll get into it here. So, his classes... Actually, before I go into that, let's do his troops. Once you get the Vampire Bat, yeah, I'm assuming you're going to want to stop there. Now, you can get all these other guys. You can unlock... I'm sure eventually you can unlock, like, Lava Golem and stuff like that for him, too. So, and, you know, the troops, they kind of depend on what map you're running, but for the most part, I'm going to be going Vampire Bat. And then with backup of golems, unless I specifically want to counter something in a certain map. So, that's there for you. So then what you're going to do... Now, I'm not going to go over every skill. I'll give you the general overview of skills. Oh, I forgot to go over his passive skill. So the first skill you get actually ends up being pretty decent. Takes all damage for adjacent friendly units when attacked. 30% chance to dispel one buff effect from the enemy before battle. Now, the issue with this is there's no type of reduction, but it does cover all types of damage, which is pretty cool. Now, that's going to suck early game, but I'm keeping on right now anyways with my build. So let's get into his other skills. Now, the tree that's going to be the most tempting, which is clearly what I'm doing, is the right tree, Tiamat to Bahamut. The other passive skill everyone's going to get, Defensive Intimidate. After taking action, decrease the defense of all enemies by 2 blocks, 15% lasts a turn. I think this is actually really good. This actually makes it into my endgame build form. Unless you have someone else that does this role, but 2 blocks, you know, every time he takes a turn, that's pretty good. If you have again with, you know, the healer lady, Liana. You know, you could do that, or you could warp him to somebody with Hein, and then put him more defensive down on if you want. Now, Tiamat's what I went early. These are the troops it unlocks, which... I'm not going to go so much over the troops, because by now, if you're playing this game, you should know what which troops do what. So, we'll just skip that from the videos from now on. Battle Cry. Before attacking, dispels 1 buff from enemy, decreases enemies' attack and defense by 10%, lasts a turn. This I could see you doing really well in PvP, or anybody that has a buff that you really want to get rid of. PvP, just because everybody has faction buffs, so if you can dispel either the faction buff or whatever buffs that they're rocking, that's going to be a pretty good skill for that. Otherwise, I'm usually not going to take this in most cases, because I already got people that do Dispel buff. So, down here, this is where you get Vampire Bat once you get to Bahamut. That's what I'm rocking right now. You also get the pretty good Stone Colossus. You can take him down. Eventually, you unlock like the Lava Golem and stuff like that. So, Great Dragon Barrier, this is the tree you want to go down if you need someone to tank your magic damage for you, because he gets the magic damage guard here. Now, the thing you're going to say maybe is like, well, what about his passive skill where he automatically takes the damage for everybody? Yeah, that's great, but it doesn't give him any type of buff. So, as we know with most of the cover buffs, you know, you're going to get 1.4 times whatever the either defense or magic defense, in this case magic defense converted to attack. And additional damage, what makes his skill really sexy, and what I'll probably be running whenever I need to tank magic damage, makes you immune to fixed damage. So people like Egbert, etc., they're not going to be able to proc their extra fixed damage skills on you. This is going to be really good in PvP against any type of magic damage team. But even if they're not magic damage, you're making your units within 2 blocks immune to fixed damage. That's super sexy, super amazing. There's all types of weapons and skills in the game that do that. So, but there's not too many block fixed damage. So, pretty good stuff there. So that's why you go down this tree. His other skill, in defense of all units within 2 blocks, 15%. Situational. You're probably not going to use this super a lot unless you're really having to tank magic. So, but right now, my core build is you're going to get this just to reduce defense. And then I'm taking this right now just to make people immune to fixed damage. That eliminates so much damage that can be done to your units right there. Now, as for his other trees, and if you notice, I would like to compliment his long games on the creation of this hero, and the trees are actually all really cool. If you notice, he has like a different form and everything, so it's pretty awesome. All the great mythical beasts. I forgot to point that out earlier. But anyway, so if you were gonna go, I want to say I'm gonna pronounce this right, Skyla, whatever. This is the water tree. So, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. Basically, when he is Tiamat, he's going to kind of go through a bunch of different class changes, if you notice. So this one, it's a little bit more of like a ground-based flyer unit, but he's basically a flyer unit no matter what you do, because he treats all places like plains. So keep that in mind. But this kind of turns him into a water unit if you go down the middle tree. So this is your physical damage tanking tree. Now keep in mind, even though you're going to get the physical damage guard here, and it also gives you water control, which would be really good for water maps. Water control, those of us who've played the game long enough know it's one of the most OP buffs in the game. Essentially adds 1.4 times your attack. And the terrain you're on is considered water, so if you have any other water buffs, which we will get to shortly, it's going to also proc all that damage and whatever other types of buffs as well. Now, once you go down here, now keep in mind, this does not make you immune to fixed damage like the other one, but it is granting you water control. When you keep going down the tree, you know, that's just the passive defense bonus, which in most cases, unless you're like really early game, not going to do a ton for you. Or actually late game, it could do a little bit. But here's a skill here, Master of Ice. 0.25 times AoE damage to all enemies within 4 blocks. Really huge radius there, 4 blocks. Long cooldown though, but 4 blocks. Treats the terrain they are on as water, so you're going to get that damage bonus. Last 2 turns, grants the effect water control, which we've been over. Terrain you're on, regarded as water, so same thing basically. He's like an all-terrain vehicle throughout all terrains, which is pretty nice. And he gets this really cool graphic here. Now, if you're going to be rolling the water, I still recommend the Vampire Bat, just because of the way that his passive and his innate tankiness works. Because you want your troops to be regening as much as possible if he's going to be taking a ton of damage, especially if you're running his passive skill he gets at the beginning. Now, you might say, wow, both those trees are pretty good. Well, it doesn't stop there. This tree's actually not that bad either. Start off with Cerberus. These troops, you know, the skeletal troop, he can heal himself a little bit if you prefer. Bring this guy, but you're going to be vulnerable to Holy. But the skill he gets, active skill heals 100% of your unit's HP on a 3-turn cooldown. Which opens up the possibility if you want to run either Clock, even though most people, they don't run Clock, that's bad. Clock, or I know there's that other enchant that does like a 1-turn cooldown whenever he does stuff. But keep in mind, he's guarding most of the time, so he has a decent chance to proc that a lot. Active skill heals 100% of your unit's HP, so it's basically a full heal every 3 turns. Pretty sexy. And that would probably actually make it onto my... Well, I'll get to that. There's some conditions, but this will probably make it onto my final tree for most maps. First aid will. Now, here's your other choices. You're going to get down to the Behemoth tree if you come down here. Now, here is your faction buff. So, if you're going to run him as your faction buffer, and the reason you would do that, it would increase damage dealt as long as your unit's HP percentage is higher than the enemy's, which, of course, not always going to happen, but you get 15% additional damage if that's the case for your Origin of Light heroes. I think there's better faction buffs in Origin of Light, but, you know, if this is the one you're going to run, and you got Origin of Light heroes and they don't have the faction buff, hey, it's always worth it just to get the attack and defense. So, now Beast Shock. This is the other skill that's probably going to make it. And this is also the skill that's going to be able to turn him into an offensive force if you want him to be. So attacks is, attacks a single enemy 1.5 times damage. Before entering battle, you receive the Beast Shock effect. 40% of your magic defense and defense to attack, which makes all enemies within 1 block unable to move or guard. Now 5-turn cooldown, but that's pretty powerful stuff, this last part right there. Now, not only are you adding 40% of your M defense and defense, but you are also basically you're breaking guards, and you're making enemies unable to move. So this is going to be super sexy in pretty much everything you do, but especially in PvP, because you can bypass the guard BS, as well as make people unable to move. And if you happen to be able to take Liana with you, and proc again, you know, you can move them out of range of the units that you've just made unable to move, and then you could bring in your troops and just rain down Fury. And then if you did want to run Clock, there's a chance that this would come up again. Now, Clock, I'm going to warn you guys, because you guys heard me say Clock twice now. Clock is very situational, but keep in mind as you look at his skills, you know, you got a lot of stuff. 3-turn cooldown. There's 2 turns there. Well, that's a passive. 4-turn cooldown. 5-turn cooldown. So he's got some pretty long cooldowns. So I'll get to what the enchant that I really recommend, though. Clock's for something if you guys that overachieve, that get this guy super powerful to the point of he doesn't need so much defense anymore. Or at least healing, as I'm going to say. So, final build, what I'm going to run. Like I said, that passive that... If you want him as a tank, the passive where he takes everybody's damage passively around him, which is in the Sacred Beast tree, just it's not shown here. That would be pretty good if you just want to guard. Now, I'm also going to recommend this unless you have this role covered, the decreased defense of all enemies within 2 blocks, unless you have it covered by someone else, which is pretty easy to do. I have Hein to do it as well, even though Hein can't do it every turn like he can, though. Otherwise, since I'm going down the Bahamut tree, I'm going to have Great Dragoon Barrier, make people immune to fixed damage, because I think that's super good. It's kind of situational if you really need to dispel buffs. But so right here, Great Dragoon Barrier, let me just stop wasting time. His passive skill, that's on Sacred Beast, I just forget the name of it, not this one, but the one that you get when you first get the hero, the starter skill. And then at that point, you have a choice of full heal, early game, clearly I'd recommend full heal, go over and get it. And I actually need to do that, so... And then, once you get down here, unless he's your faction buffer, get Beast Shock. If he's your faction buffer, then consider running this instead of first aid, or wherever you are in your game, or the passive. Now, the passive tanking thing, rather. Now, if you're going to run him as a tank, then you need to get whatever you're tanking him for. Either Great Dragoon Barrier or, not that one. Triton, if you're going to run him as a physical tank. But in my opinion, he's going to be more valuable as a magic tank just because he gets fixed immune damage, or he immunes it there. But anyways, you should get the point. So passive up here, Sacred Beast, what I'm going to run. Great Dragoon Barrier. And then in most cases, I'm going to run Beast Shock when I get to it. But situationally, I'll run First Aid as well. And some of the other skills are situational depending on what you're doing. So, but that's my recommendation for build. Now, what else I'm going to recommend is for enchant, you probably want to go Hard Rock with him, especially early game, because that's going to increase your defense, magic, and regular defense, and it's also going to heal you whenever you're under 50%. This guy's going to be taking a lot of damage, and also he already has passive healing he's thrown out to other units as long as he's alive, up to 30%. A little bit of damage reduction. So he's going to need a way to fill up. And the ways for him to fill up are going to be Hard Rock and his passives, or excuse me, his skill on his left tree to get him up. Now, as far as gear, that was another thing people were complaining about. I'm spending too much time on gear. Gear I'm going to recommend, literally, just look at the gear. If it gives him HP, that's great, because the more HP he has, the higher his heal is going to be. Defense, magic defense, everything else is whatever, honestly. Because in most cases, his attack is going to be augmented by defense and magic defense, depending on which tree you're going down. Now, as far as enchant, like I said, Hard Rock, if you want to live life on the edge, ice. But to be perfectly honest, I don't even think he needs ice, just because the passive on his left tree, the beast, whatever, beast scream or whatever it was, the last part of the tree, that's going to automatically make people be unable to move and unable to guard. So, you know, like, they're not completely defenseless, but essentially they are to most range damage, depending on what the unit is. So I don't think you need ice as much on this guy, as much as you need Hard Rock. And then, like I said, Clock, if you ever get this guy to the point where he's so tanky that you don't have to worry about healing and Hard Rock in most cases, or defensive bonuses, yeah, just go get Clock and have his cooldowns off cooldown all the time and just have this raging inferno machine go crazy. And that's pretty much it, guys, so. I actually think this unit's super good. I wish I could get a Zarita, but I still think this unit's super good, so. Hopefully that helped you guys, and let me know what you guys think, so. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here right now. Guess I will do my promo. So, yo, I'm Showtime Doctor, Showtimedr. You found my YouTube. Hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Also, check the title info. There's my Twitch and my Discord there. Twitch, I'm actually thinking about rolling that back to like playing normal, you know, like indie games, retro games, etc. Some premium games as they come out, like Darkest Dungeon 2 I want to stream. But I'm thinking about streaming my gacha games on YouTube now. It's just I got to get all the infrastructure in place for that. But my Discord, you can come in. We got a real good Langrisser M community in there. And yeah, so I will catch you guys later on. Have a great day. Peace out.